Take one, blue, run. Hello, everybody. Weather Extra. What's going on Saturday morning? And we got to talk. Normally, I like to have a lot of fun with this, and I still will. But I had to be a little serious because we got to talk about the potential for severe weather this evening and tonight, right? We have a 48 first alert weather day. It really should be like, if we could do 48 first alert weather nights, that would make more sense on this one, because the chance for storms will be likely this evening and overnight. And there is a chance for some severe weather across the area. If you have been watching WAFF 48 this week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, there's been this like drawn out frontal boundary, and that's the radar right there. You can see all the rain is going west and north of us. And if you've been watching the radar the last 3 days, this is what's been happening for the last 72 hours. Is this front is just stuck and it's not moving. We had a little taste of severe weather Thursday evening. I was on air and I think it was 5 o'clock when we had the tornado warning get issued for western Lauderdale County. If you live in eastern Lauderdale County, the sirens went off for no reason, but western Lauderdale County had a confirmed tornado in the Waterloo area by County Road 3. If you've ever been out there, County Road 3 is essentially just east of Pickwick Lake across the river, and it's a dirt road with like a lot of trees. And the tornado actually went across south of Pickwick Lake in Mississippi, crossed over into Alabama, just barely on the like corner where all three states meet. Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. And then the tornado continued up into Tennessee. Had winds of 105 miles per hour and a category EF1. But it was a very isolated event. So what's been happening all week long, this track that you see all that rain, it's been kind of up and over our area, and we've had a little taste of some storms in that one severe weather event, but overall we've been spared Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for the majority of our area. In fact, many of you haven't even come close to having a storm. It's been just really warm and feeling very summer-like it does out there this morning and will throughout the day. So, all right, let me check some comments really quick. I have to turn my head for this. Hi, Aubrey. Hi, Kristen. Good morning. Hi, Aubrey again. Good morning to you. Tracy, I wish I was running Whiskey Hill today. Thanks for the lives. Thanks for the lives from the race. I'm going to be back next year. Awesome. Fantastic. Aubrey says, is Scottsboro going to get some of the storms? Yes, Scottsboro will have storms, but I'll talk the timeline for you in just a minute, okay? Christine Tinker is in the Scottsboro area. She's in Bryant, and she says, good morning. Carolyn, good to see you. Always a pleasure, and I always appreciate you coming on. What I'm going to do is break down what the impacts are and then also break down the timing of it all. And there's still not a consensus on exactly what time this is all going to play out. But I'm going to explain why there's some confusion with the forecast models. So I'm going to advance. We're going to zoom in. You can see right now we're dry. The rain off to our north and west. If you have plans today, this will be the driest window of the entire weekend. So from now till 4 or 5 o'clock, you're good to go. You're warm. You're probably sweating. It's a little humid. It's a little breezy. There's pollen everywhere. If you haven't had any rain, which most of us haven't, it's just gross outside in terms of the pollen all over everything, right? I was out in my backyard yesterday at the picnic table, and it's like an inch thick. My dogs were not happy. They were very disappointed. Here's what we call it's an SPC graphic, Storm Prediction Center. The brown is where we have an enhanced area of severe weather. The yellow is elevated. It's like levels like 1, 2, 3, 4 is the best way to do it for people. But in the areas, notice how the brown is west and then it drops off significantly as you move east. That's exactly how I think these storms will play out. So we talked about Scottsboro just moments ago. I think it was Aubrey. And she said, Jeff, what do I got going on here? You will have storms in the forecast overnight tonight. But I still think the strongest, most powerful storms, if you want to call them that, will be in the brown area. The higher threat will be just to our west. But what makes this forecast difficult is that through the day, we're good, right? 80s, you got a mix of sun and clouds, a little breezy at times. Tonight, the timing of the storms, there's a line that's going to move through around 9 o'clock for areas west and then continue through the areas east by morning tomorrow, okay? That line may have a few little, we'll call them like, you know those people who always come to the party too soon and you're like, dude, I said the party was at 7. Why are you here at 5? Well, bro, I just wanted to be early. Well, that's what these storms are going to try to do. Before the main line gets here, they're going to be your party crashers, and they want to pop before the line even gets here, like around 5, 6, 7 o'clock. If that happens for areas west of I-65, closer to the Mississippi state line, that would be a concern for like an extra push of severe weather. And I still think the strongest storms will be for areas west of I-65. So I adjusted the timeline just a little bit. Can't ignore the high-res models. I mean, they're bringing in everything a little faster now. So I went 9 to 3 in red, 2 to 8 for areas in orange. So if you are east or if you're in that orange area, this is an overnight event for you that will have a line of weakening storms that mainly just produce wind and rain. I put that little asterisk there. It says early evening storms possible. And that's the part of the forecast that is the most challenging. Because if those storms pop between like 6 and 9 for areas in the red, especially closer to the state line in Mississippi, they would likely be the strongest cells of the entire night. If they don't pop, we good. We just wait for the line, right? I hope that helps. I hope that helps explain it. Hi, Jocelyn. Hi, Denise. Good to see you on. Hi, Tina from Fort Payne. A variety of locations, which is great. Hi, Molly. Well, weekend, I do. I talked to you this morning about it. I think the storms will weaken before they get to Henniker. A lot of you asked me about the tornado watch, if it's going to be pushed out. They won't issue a tornado watch until later today. So I don't know. I don't make that call. The Storm Prediction Center works with the National Weather Service to decide what counties would be in the watch. I would assume that areas west might get a tornado watch for this evening and overnight, but I don't know what they're going to do. I have no idea. Sometimes they're very aggressive and they put the watch for everybody, and then they trim it back accordingly, or sometimes they confine it to smaller areas. It just depends on, how they decide how they want to watch the area. Remember, a watch means conditions are favorable. A warning means that a storm is on the ground and already doing damage. Hi, Adrian from Grant. Good to see you. Skylar says, this is only a rain event for Athens. No, there's storms, Skylar. There's still wind and rain. And I know it's not the most glamorous part of the storm because everyone wants to know if they're going to have a tornado. But the winds could still be damaging over 60 miles an hour. And don't sleep on the rainfall. Everybody does. Everyone's like, oh, it's just rain. There could be areas tonight that have 5-6 inches of rainfall. These storms are moving slowly. We call it training, and I don't mean like a caboose train or like you're training a dog. When we say training with thunderstorms, that means they're like literally moving over the same spot over the course of time. If you're not if you're not seeing this line move progressively and it's going slow, that means the pockets of heavy rainfall hit the same location for a longer period of time. That can take the rainfall amounts and put them way higher than we want. And there could be flash flooding during the overnight and morning, and that's a big concern. I don't know if anybody saw the national news this morning, but some of the images that are coming in from Tennessee, Kentucky, and Arkansas, especially on a line from Nashville down to Memphis, the flooding is crazy. The tornadoes get all the news. They always do, and they should. They're EF3 tornadoes doing unbelievable devastation. But it's the flash flooding that continues after the storms stop. Even after the storms move out of those areas, the flash flooding or flooding will continue. And there are some houses and communities that have been completely demolished by the flooding, not the tornadoes. So it's always something that gets forgotten, is the rainfall. Obviously, we don't want any bad things to happen to anybody, but the rainfall could be just as bad. Cindy says, yep, you're in the brown. Yep, we talked about that, Cindy, when you talked to me on my Facebook page this morning. You asked me about the tornadoes. I addressed it in my post, and it's areas north and west that would have that chance for a tornado, and definitely would be your area. And I mentioned that to you when I responded back to you this morning. Christina says, good morning to everybody. Aubrey says, will the tornado sirens go off here tonight? I don't know. In Scottsboro, I don't know. Sometimes they go off for no reason. Like last Thursday when I was on air for the tornado in Lauderdale County, because the tornado warning went for like Western Lauderdale. I was under the impression the sirens go off for specific parts of the county because Lauderdale's so big. But there were people that were near Limestone County, right on this line there, saying that their sirens went off and they were never in any threat. So very confusing for sure. It was literally like this much of northwest Alabama and Waterloo that had the tornado. So, and it never was going to threat eastern areas. So I don't know if they'll go off. I don't think that there'll be a tornado in Scottsboro tonight. I think it's a very low chance, but I don't know if they'll sound the sirens or not. Again, above my pay grade. Molly, what weekend? Yep, I answered that one already. Josie, happy birthday. Good to somebody. I don't know. Your bro? Okay, good. Hi, Justin. Good to see you on, my friend. Hope all is well. Haven't seen you on in a bit. Hi, Leanne from Russellville. Always a pleasure to see you on. Is it? Oh, boy. Avia? I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I mangle your first name, send me a mean message and I'll get it right. If I mangle your last name, I have no control over that because I don't even say my own last name right. So, whatever. Avia, well, weekend before Huntsville. Yes and no. I do think they'll be in a weakening process, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be some damaging winds and heavy rainfall. And I know that a lot of times everyone's like, well, it's not a tornado, so I'm going to be just fine. So, and that's okay. If that's what you think, okay. But the wind and rain could still do some stuff, you know. But Chandler, what about Moulton? Yep, same thing is, Moulton's a little bit trickier. But yes, I still think there's an impact here for you tonight. I still think there'll be some storms. And I still think that they could bring damaging winds and heavy rainfall. Maybe not the tornado threat like it will be just to your north and west, but certainly an impact overnight. And please keep in mind, too, this rain is going to continue into the morning hours for areas east, and it's going to still pour through like noon. It doesn't really taper off until the afternoon, and that's when the rain starts to back off, and that's when your temperatures will drop. You go from like 80s today to 60s, and by the time we get to like Sunday evening, it's going to be like cool and maybe even a little rainy for parts of the area with some light lingering showers. So this is a big time change. This is taking that summer air out, replacing it with a cooler pattern. And those two air masses, they don't play nice together. They don't like each other. When they have to go back and forth, they fight, and the fighting is thunderstorms. That boundary is what causes all the heavy rain and potential for severe weather. Ronnie, I'm not Brad. No, I don't even come close. I'm Jeff, but thank you for saying hello to Brad. Brad's on, well, he's on work/vacation. Is it Padre Island? Is that how you say it? I think it's a really nice island. I don't know. It's someplace I've never been. But thank you, Ronnie, for saying hello to Brad. I'll let him know you said hello. But we are the same age. Hi, Jeffrey from Huntsville. Good to see you. Justin, what does it say when majority of storms this season are happening at night? No, it doesn't have anything to do with that at all, Justin, radiational cooling. It's just the timing of the fronts have been at night. That's all it is. It's just the way it's been. Here's the flooding potential. The yellow's like a higher risk, more higher, and the red's even higher. The green a little lower, and that is based on the amount of rain that could fall with this system. And you can see that the majority of the Tennessee Valley is in some kind of yellow or red risk for high rainfall totals and flash flooding. So that, again, is a problem as we go into tonight and tomorrow morning. I broke it down into threats. I literally show 6 different graphics for the same thing, like just trying to tell the story. And sometimes people get it off one graphic, they get it off another graphic, and that's all good. But wind, rain, flash flooding, high, high, high. You can even throw large hail in there, and I put that at a low risk. I kept the tornadoes low because they're confined mainly to northwestern areas. I would never, ever put my guard down completely because there's not a 0 chance of tornadoes for the area, for areas east. But I still think that's the area that would have the higher chance of some tornadoes tonight. There's your 10-day forecast, 48 first alert weather day for the night storms. Sunday, I put heavy rain confined to the morning, tapering off to lighter rain in the afternoon. Temperatures, whoop, they go way down. We had a record, daily high temperature record tied in the Shoals Wednesday and Thursday. Huntsville hit 89 at the airport yesterday, tying a record back in like 1934. And then what's really crazy is the overnight lows are records too, not because they're cold, but because they're so warm overnight. We call it a record high maximum or a record high minimum temperature. And that has happened in the Shoals in Huntsville a couple nights this week too. What that tells you at home, when you're breaking daily high temperature records, you're doing something that you've never done on that day before, or you're tying something that's only happened a few times. So this is a very warm air mass for this time of year. Very warm. Hi, Amber. Good to catch you. We've been busy. That's okay. Busy's good. It's good to see you, though. I miss you. Donna Oliver, good morning. I'm glad you follow and pay attention to me, Donna. What do you think of that? I think it's fantastic. You be safe in PC tonight, okay? Amber says, flood prep is just as important as tornado prep. Preach it. Have a plan and multiple routes to get you need. Yes, 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 especially when the heavy rainfall happens at night. So Like tonight, tricky forecast. There's a song to that. You remember that song? Dance till you rock around, you rock around. I'll sing you this one. All right, Tatiana's in the house, everybody, by the way. She laughs at my jokes and makes me feel good about myself. So, Trash Panda forecast, so dicey and tricky. Got to watch that radar, and if you are going to the game and those storms start to make their way to Toyota Field, which they very well could during like middle of the game, there's going to be some serious lightning with some of these storms too. Want to make sure you get to a safe place, okay? And also, if we start getting some really intense rainfall overnight, if you work third shift and you have to go to your job at night, right? You know how hard it is to see big puddles of water on the highway, in especially more rural areas where it's dark, and you don't know how deep that water is, and you come across it and you go into it with your little Mini Cooper. Not good, you know? You gotta be careful. Stephanie says, should we be concerned about tornadoes overnight? I'd probably focus more on the wind and rain for Athens and Harvest. It's not a zero chance of tornadoes, but the wind and rain might be a bigger impact, and the winds could definitely be over 60 and cause damage. Carolyn says, watch means your ingredients to make the taco. Warning means you're eating the taco. Yes, I love that social media post. That is probably, whoever made that graphic probably should get like, it's absolutely brilliant because it actually explains the difference between a watch and a warning better than I ever could. So I love it. If you don't understand, like if you have all the ingredients to make a taco, you're watching, you're going to make the taco. But if you make the taco, that means it's happening. And that's what a watch and warning means, like a tornado watch or tornado warning, or even a severe thunderstorm watch or warning too. It's pretty cool. Hi, Ronnie, says Scottsboro. Good morning. Good to see you. I'll make sure I tell Brad you said hi, though. Dave Luddy, good morning, my friend. Good to see you. You're okay, Christine, for a while. Your storms in Bryant won't get there until later tonight. Like, you're the last one to get rain. And at that point, there'll probably be just a lot of rain and some wind for you in Bryant. And it will happen after midnight for you, okay? Anywhere, I'm going, Skylar, with 2 to 4 inches of rain across the Tennessee Valley, but there'll be some locally higher amounts. It depends on where, whoever gets one of those really big rainmakers that parks it over your city or location or town or whatever, you'll have a little higher amount. Bill Beck, Jeff, we need this thing to move out quickly. We do. And it's unfortunately a slow overnight process. You got something big going on, Bill Beck, tomorrow? I mean, for you, because you're so cool, I would do anything I could to get this system out of here so you could have whatever plans on Sunday are important, I imagine. Hi, Bonnie. Storms tonight, beginning mainly west, and then moving east overnight. Hey, let me go. There we go. Bear with me, everybody. I'm backtracking. Bonnie just came on. She said, please recap. I'm recapping. This will also stay on Facebook after I'm done. So you can always rewatch it. I mean, I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't want to watch me again. But if you feel like you missed something, it's back on after we stop. But 9 to 3 red, 2 to 8 east, mainly wind and rain, primary concerns, a low-end tornado chance. But the big question is, Bonnie, and I don't know exactly, Bonnie, I forget where you live, and I apologize. But there is a slight chance that a few storms may develop before the main line gets here. If that happens, I put early evening storms possible for areas closest to the Mississippi state line. That's when the storms could actually be the strongest, with some heavy rain, damaging winds, and a tornado. Once we get past that initial pop of storms, it's the main line that comes in after that, and it moves very slowly across the Tennessee Valley. I mean, 9 p.m. west, and then I got it going all the way to 8 east. There's actually a second line that develops, but that's a long time to just watch this thing move across the Tennessee Valley. And at that time, it'd be mainly rain and wind with winds over 60 miles an hour. I don't think large hail is going to be a big issue. Last time I said that, it was mainly small hail, so I felt pretty good about the forecast, but we'll keep an eye on it, though. I hope that helps, Bonnie. Linda, what about Albertville? Same scenario, storms weakening as they move east. I would consider Albertville east, so probably more of a wind and rain event, and it happens overnight for you. Florence, probably the stronger of the storms would happen. Depends on those evening storms if they develop or not, but you'd get it first. Timeline's right in front of you. Good morning, Jason from Petersburg, Tennessee. That's a cool place. Hi, Tasha. Good morning to you. I was very close, you said. Avia? Okay. you get bad anxiety, and that's okay. Anxiety, I get it. This place has a history, Tennessee Valley, of storms that have been, devastating. I will say this, though. Everyone gets upset when you hear chance of tornadoes, but I know this is hard to believe, but sometimes you're going to have straight line winds that are actually stronger than tornadoes, and that can be really, really bad and cause a lot of damage, too. So I understand that the tornado threat is the real deal, though. I get it. Holly, hi to you. Good to see you on. Patsy's on this morning. Thanks for keeping you updated. Least I could do. I appreciate it. Laura, if we get those early evening storms, will tornado risk go up in Lawrence County in northwest Alabama? Laura, that's a great question. I think when you have an evening storm that fires up, I think it's going to pretty much hug the Mississippi-Alabama line. I don't think it gets far enough east. Now, you have Lawrence County, and I'm assuming you mean Lawrence County, Alabama, and if I'm wrong, let me know. I still think that the initial line won't be as strong when it gets to you, even if you pop these early evening storms. And I still think that the strongest evening storms will still be west of you, but definitely worth watching and making sure you have the 48 app or any way to get notifications. But this really truly becomes a higher end threat for northwestern zones, much like we've had all week long. But that doesn't mean that there's a zero chance of tornadoes as it moves east. I just think it just weakens and becomes more of a rain and wind event, even if it gets to Lawrence County. And again, I'm assuming Lawrence County, Alabama with your question. So, Deborah, good morning. Preston, any possibility of a baseball game tomorrow? Ooh. Like Pandas or your own game? Because I don't know exactly where you're at. Because if you're in Fort Payne, I'd say you ain't playing tomorrow. If you're in Florence, you have a chance to play tomorrow because your rain will be out faster than it will be for East. If you're thinking about going to the Pandas game, I think they'll play. It's just got to get that rain out of here. So I hope that covered all possibilities. If prefrontals were to form, what time would be the earliest? 5 to 6. Mac, that's your question. Kaylee, no, not so much. I don't think it's a zero chance in Albertville, Kaylee, but I think it's a low chance. I think it's mainly rain and wind for you, but winds can still cause a lot of damage. Jaime, I can't have that on there. Gotta delete that, my friend. Cannot have you advertised. Hi, D. How are you doing, my friend? Good to see you on. Jessica says Danville. Same forecast, Jessica, that I've been talking about. The timeline's there with the graphic in front of you. If any evening storms pop ahead of the main line, that would be between 6 and 9. I think Danville is going to be a little too far east for that, so go by the time that you see there. Brett, help me out. I don't know what town you're in, my friend, but it's not the same for everybody because the storms move so slow. The higher chance of rain for areas west begins in the evening, but if you live like in Fort Payne or if you live like in Jackson County, you may not get rain until almost like 1 o'clock in the morning. So unfortunately, it's not an answer that is simple unless I know where you live. Good morning, good morning. I'm going to cycle through a lot of these comments because a lot of people are just asking about their specific towns, and I would love to sit here and answer everyone's specific town question, but the graphic right there tells most of the story. You can re-watch this because it's going to be up on this page the entire day. Cycle through, try to find this graphic when you cycle through so you don't hear my endless babble, and then you'd have it covered. Chelsea comes in a little while. She'll have another update with Weather Extra before she's on for shows tonight. She will have the very latest. I'm sure her and I will cross paths at some point tonight, either to relieve or have to do a tag team on this, but I'm assuming it's going to be more of me taking over, probably around midnight or 1 a.m. And then I am here through tomorrow morning, and by the time she gets back to air Sunday evening, the storm threat's obviously gone, the temperatures have dropped, and the rainfall intensity is backing off, okay? Everybody, have a good night. Stay safe. Have ways to get notifications. Whether you're out and about trying to get your weekend groove on, I get it, on your phone. If you have a weather radio, make sure the batteries are plugged, updated, because if you lose power, it will go to a battery source. Make sure that you have ways to get those notifications overnight after midnight, and not just for tornadoes, but any kind of wind damage or any kind of flooding. If you're going out tomorrow morning for church services really early in the morning, after the heavy rainfall tonight, watch out for maybe on the back roads. If you're trying to get from point A to point B, there could be some limbs down on the road that haven't been cleaned from the night before. There could be some roads that have a lot of water on them from the heavy rainfall overnight. Those are all things to think about if you got plans for the next 24 hours. I try to cover every scenario, but every person has a specific scenario, and I try to cover as many as I can. Everybody have a fantastic day. Stay safe, okay?